Hello, I'm Mark Tucker.
Hey there, I'm Alan Furstenberg. We are Two Voice Devs.
Two Voice Devs. It's good to see you again, Alan.
Always good to see you, Mark. Great to chat.
Yeah, it's been fun just working on some stuff on the side projects. Any progress with what you're doing?
I don't want to talk about what I'm doing because no, I have not made much progress.
Oh,
It
sorry,
is
sorry.
no, that's okay. It is. I mean, in some ways, it's been frustrating, and in other ways, I've been able to take a step back and say, you know what? I'm just going to relax for a little bit. I don't need to be always rushing into working on a project. So right now, I'm playing it a little chill.
Sounds
but
good.
but looking forward to diving back into some stuff. So hopefully soon we'll see some new stuff.
Yeah, I did that a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, I'm totally disconnecting. Didn't. I walked away from social media. I grabbed a paperback book. So sometimes it's really good just to get away from the screen, even though I really enjoy what I'm doing. And
That's it. Is I love what I do. I love my side projects. I love my main projects. I am, have really excited to get some of them done. And sometimes I'm just like, you know what? It's all just clogging my head. Just need to take a step back.
Yep.
And that's okay.
So it doesn't have to be done today.
No.
And I do this during the day. If things just kind of get all clogged up, then it's just take a little walk, even if it's just a walk around the house.
Yep.
Since it's 107 degrees here in Arizona.
Oh. Oh boy.
But that's what air conditioning's for. And
talk about great inventions. Yes.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you have been up to some stuff. What have you been up to?
I have. So remember a number of weeks ago, we talked about this kind of a new batch of Jovo plugins that I wrote that helped with keeping track of like streaks in a game or
Yep.
shuffling an array of things or things like that. So
great utilities that I'm still intend to get back to with multivocal, but that'll be another show.
So we had talked about that kind of like how they work and how useful they were. And in talking about that, then I've been thinking actually quite a long time about work I've done for some of my game projects with badges and achievements and how to earn them. And the route I took on the Jovo plugin tools that I did last time were they're available just as Jovo 4 plugins. But it really wouldn't be that hard to extract the core part of that into a separate project so that it could be used anywhere that there was a node or a JavaScript project. And so that's the approach that I took on this. So my step one is to create kind of a badges library. And then once that's available and published, then I will take and wrap that badges functionality or expose it in a Jovo 4 plugin so that then if you're using Jovo, you can easily go ahead and just use badges. And so that's the gist of the project. And we can get into some more details here in a minute.
And when we talk about badges, we mean things like, certainly when it comes to games, we're talking about achievements like, you've, for an exercise thing, you've walked 10,000 steps this week.
Yep. Or, you played your first game or, you played on a certain day, you get the Happy Halloween badge or, whatever it is, right? So those are the types of things I'm talking about, and they can be used in games or in the gamification of apps. So it could be some other type of application that's not necessarily a game, but that there might be still a reason to keep track of things. Something that can be earned over time based on rules is kind of definition of a badge.
I guess it also occurs to me that even outside of games, it's the sort of thing that, in some ways this could be used to help keep track of just basic, what's the way to put it, knowledge that you've accumulated. So, to know that somebody has visited a dozen times rather than looking up how many times they visited, at a dozen times you give them badge A, and then you can just track based on do they have this badge or not.
True. That would be another approach.
So and number of times maybe a bad way to put it, but the fact that they've hit a certain number of different skills, or that they've achieved certain skills and gone through certain experiences, so they presumably know a system better. So just it's generically anything that you want to track in a concise way.
Yep. So based on rules, something you can earn based on rules. Like one of the basic concepts is the concept of a property. You're able to define a property in the system and do so in a way that as you create these properties, then different information is tracked. And in addition to just the property itself, there might be other things that you want to track along with that property, but that might be happen behind the scenes. So a property is something that has a name, and it can be of type string, Boolean, or number.
Okay.
And the three things that you can do to a property, and I'll talk specifically about custom properties because there's also this concept of system properties. So custom properties are things that you're going to create. And one method is set property. You give it the name of the property and the value, whether it be a string number or Boolean, and it just sets the property value. This is the current value of the property.
Now, are these are properties that are managed as part of your library?
Yes. So
okay.
The library itself has state behind the scenes. And so when you create this badges or use this badges library, you're going to create a new object. And the first thing that you're going to do after the calling the constructor is you're going to call a set data method. Now, when you first start out, that data, there's nothing in it. It's just empty data. But at the end of this process, the state of the badges isn't stored inside of badges itself. It is an object, and so the lifetime of the object, it's there inside there, but at the end, when the object goes out of scope, then all that stuff goes away. So before that happens, you need to call a toJSON method to get that state out of the library and then store it wherever you want. And I purposely did the storage of the data separate from the badges because there could be all kinds of different ways that you want to store it, or different data stores. And I know, like when it comes to Jovo, then there's already a user data storage, so that's where I'm going to store it. But if you're using this in someplace else, then you might be storing data, in the browser, or however you want to store it. So there's lots of different ways that you can store it. So that's externalized. So you can set a property, you can add a property, and what that does is it adds or increments the value of a property. So
okay.
So that has to be a number, and then you can subtract the value from a property. And you can, if you don't specify like what the value is, then it's one, it defaults to 1, but you can, you could increment something by 2s or 5s or decrement by the same.
Right.
And if the property's never been set before, then it assumes that it starts out as 0 and then it increments and adds whatever the increment value is, or the same thing. So.
Okay. So it's so at the core of it, it sounds like there's this basic, I won't say it's a state management system, but it's a state representation system. When a user logs in, you need to get the state from however you're storing it, put all of it into the badges library, and then at the end of things, take all of it out of the badges library and save it in some way.
Yeah, and that gives some flexibility. So for example, I would save this, like I said, in voice application, it would be saved for the current user. So this would be the user's badges. But if you were to use this in a website or like a mobile application that's based on Node, then you could have a way that you could track multiple people's badges separately. You just store them as, separately, and then load them separately, and then deal with them as the application changes users or however.
Right. So a group, for example, could get a badge when it reaches 10 members, or something like that. Yeah. Okay.
So you can store that state, and you have some flexibility. You can store the state once. You can store it once for each member. And so storage, I guess, is one concept. The next concept is properties. And we talked about custom properties. There's also system properties. So one of the things that I had done in my other project, and I liked the concept of, or was trying to resolve, was a badge is earned at a specific place in time, a specific point in time, right? So you earn this badge, at this point in time, and it could be inside of a game. It could be inside of a session. So like in a voice application, when you launch the skill or action or custom assistant, then the session starts and you have multiple turns back and forth. And then at some point the session ends. Well, you could conceptually play multiple games inside of the same session. So you might want to know, how many badges did I earn this game? Or how many badges have I earned this session? So games and sessions are handled a little bit differently because you need to specifically say, I'm starting my session, I'm ending my session, I'm starting my game, I'm ending my game. And there's some things that happen with that. Go ahead.
So it's maintaining a separate set of properties for each of those.
Yeah, so what it's doing behind the scenes for a game and a session, it starts with a number that's 0, and it's going to increment that every time you start a game or every time you start a session. And so okay, go ahead.
If I have a property called acorns, which represents the number of acorns that I've collected.
Okay.
That property exists both on the game level and the session level. And if I say,
so properties are available kind of outside this time period, but now time periods come in, or what I'm calling periods is a concept where, so properties are global, but these periods affect.
Got it. Okay.
That.
And so if I say increment the number of acorns, it increments it in all of the periods.
Yes, because
right.
it's just incrementing the property value.
Right. But then if I do something like end a game and start a new game, and I say increment acorns, the property acorns is now different between the session and the game.
Well, it doesn't keep track of them at that level.
Okay, I got it now. Okay.
Yeah, so what it's going to be set, but if you wanted to at the beginning of the game reset it, there's the ability to reset that at the beginning of the game, and then it would.
Got it. Okay.
Then that property would be reset again. So properties are stored, but you have control over what the current value is, and you can change them at any point in time. And
okay, got it.
So that's game and session. But what happens is that it does keep track of that for a specific game, this is what the counter was. And then when you start a new game, it increments the counter. And then when you start a new game, it increments a counter. And what at the beginning of each of the periods, it records a timestamp. So the timestamp for when you say start game, this exact UTC time that you started the game is recorded and says, this game started at this timestamp. The same thing with a session. When you start a session, it sets a timestamp, which will be different. So the way, since you earn badges at specific times, then you can say, did I earn this badge? Or give me a list of all the badges that I've earned since this point in time. So that's how you can say, give me all the badges that I've earned, in this game.
In this game or in this session.
In this session. Now, it's not keeping track of a date timestamp for every badge you earned. It's just each badge has a counter. So it will increment the counter for the badge saying I've earned this badge twice, but it does tell you if I've earned it during that time period.
Okay, got it.
And then if it has, it will have the total number of badges you've earned in your lifetime, but it will at least tell you if you've earned the badge during that point in that period.
So it
of
keeps
time.
track of the most recent time that you earned a badge.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
And the count of how many times you've earned that badge.
Okay.
So I could make it more complicated, but I didn't really see a reason. And I didn't want something that was going to grow over time to get bigger and bigger and bigger every time you've earned something. You know, each thing would have a big long list of date timestamps of when things were earned. I didn't want to, I thought that was too heavy and I didn't really necessarily see a need. I could see a need that in the game, at the end of the game saying, oh, you've earned 3 badges this game and they were A, B, and C. Or an intent where somebody would say, what badges have I earned? And it would go through and give, and at the global level, and so game's kind of the smallest time, well, kind of the smallest time frame.
The smallest unit, the smallest.
This is smallest unit. And since everything, when one of these periods starts, it has a timestamp of when it started. So I guess we'll go at the top level. It's global, which means you have earned it anywhere since the beginning of time, which is January 1st, 1970. So
because we all know time didn't exist before the modern epoch. Yeah,
we didn't. So if the period is global, it's just got the timestamp for January 1st, 1970. So it's going to tell you everything that you've earned since that point in time. So that's all of my badges, right? Then the next level is year. So at the beginning of each year, it keeps track of a key that says this is what year it is, 2022, and it will do a timestamp of what that time was at the beginning of that of the year.
I've got a question. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's gonna.
Let's keep going.
So I'll just do it at a high level, and then we can go back and ask you questions. So you've got a time period for year, you've got a time period for month, for week, for day, and for hour. Okay. Now it's important that you can start a session on 1 hour and have it, even if it was a 10-minute session, it could span an hour, or it could span a day, or a month or a year, right? It just depends on when you
I mean, some of these clearly overlap. So a week, I assume starts Sunday or Monday, and that can certainly cross the month border.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So each of these periods has a timestamp that's associated with them. So you can say, give me all the badges that I've earned in the current hour. Give me all the badges I've earned in the current month, in the current day, in the current year.
So
go ahead.
Okay. So we've said that I've earned in the current month. Can I say all the badges that I earned last month?
No.
That's okay. That's where I was trying to piece out. And that makes sense.
Yeah. Because the biggest use cases is like, how many badges have I just earned? So like if I'm setting a property or like I'm incrementing a property of something, and then that triggers all these rules to evaluate, and I figure out that I did earn that. So actually the response of setting a property or adding or subtracting it is an array of the badges that you earned while that call was being made. What it does is it sets a timestamp at the very beginning. It runs the evaluation of all the rules, and at the end it says, give me all the badges that were earned since that point in time. And it will tell you, so you could make a call to a function and say, hey, this thing just caused me to earn 2 badges. Cool, right?
Okay, so I've got questions about that, but let's make sure we've covered anything else on periods before we. No,
those are the different time periods, and there's 2 main reasons why you want to have a time period. Is one, you can query and say, give me a list of all the badges that were earned during the most current of this time period. The other thing that you want to do, and this goes, so that's kind of on the output side of things, right? Kind of on the evaluation side of things, there's different reasons why you may not want to evaluate a rule. So what happens is every time you call one of the main functions on badges, whether that be set property, add property, subtract property, or start game, end game, start session, end session. Any of those is going to trigger an evaluation. And so the evaluation is going to iterate through all of the rules in the rules engine and figure out if any of them were successful rules. And,
Okay.
and so you've earned the badge. All of those functions also have a parameter that is skip eval, which if you set to true, it will not run the evaluation. It will just set the property. And you might want to do that if you're setting like 3 or 4 properties at the same time. You might want to not run evaluation on every one of those, and then the last one, then go ahead and run it, and then you'll get a little.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it's just kind of an efficiency
thing. Yeah.
Thing. You don't want something that if I ran eval, it might have triggered that this property is equals to 1, and that earns a certain badge. And what if like right after that I do something and it also goes through and evaluates all the rules again? It's going to
it's still
true.
Right.
It's going to hit true for that again. And then it's going to say, oh, okay, I've earned it again. Woohoo. So it's kind of like you keep earning it every time you call eval, even though it really hasn't changed.
So you can set the period for, you can only earn this badge once per game.
Yes, exactly. So when as part of the rules, you specify an ID for the rule, and that's going to be a unique identifier that you'll use someplace else to match it up with the actual string name of the badge. And maybe you earn some extra things, you get credits or scores or other things if you've earned that badge, but that's all separate from this badge engine. So the rule has an ID, it has a condition, which if the condition is true, then you've earned the badge. It has a value, an optional value for max, which is this is the max number of times ever in lifetime that you can earn this badge.
Ever or per period?
Ever.
Okay.
And so that's another thing that checks, even if the condition checks that, yes, this is a badge that would be earned, it checks to say, does this badge have a maximum number and have I reached that maximum number? If I have, then it doesn't, you don't earn the badge again because you've already earned as many as you can.
I assume, what does it default to? No maximum?
If it's not set at all, like if the property doesn't exist or it's null or undefined, then it's infinite or whatever.
Because it would seem to me it is very, very, very common to set this to 1. Because most of I won't say all the time, but most of the time, you only are going to issue a badge once.
Well, could you? So like if your rule was, if you play on
Tuesdays, right, that you get a badge every, I mean, I can certainly see there are times that you get a badge every time you play on Tuesday. Sure. But you know, it seems very common to me that you get a badge the first time you play on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's you have the flexibility of doing that.
Yeah,
you can earn a badge every Tuesday, but you can only earn this badge 3 times, or you can earn it every Tuesday, right?
Yeah, okay, I got it.
So the last part of a rule is an update period. And so you specify like what is the period that you can earn one of these in. So the better way of saying it is I can earn this badge only once per day, once per hour,
per period.
once per period, once per global. Right.
And that's not a number that's tunable. So I can't say I can earn this badge 3 times per game.
No, it's a period. So that's kind of the rule is I can earn this badge once per period if it matches this condition, but no more times than max.
Okay. Ever. Got it. Okay.
Ever. Yep.
Okay.
Now what happens with the period then is because we've kept track of a timestamp and a key for what each time a period starts, I can see if the current period
Has already been met.
has changes, and it's a little bit nuanced than that, but basically what happens is the first eval, because a lot of these are time based, each time an eval happens, I check to see what is the current day, month, year, hour, whatever, based on some sort of a key format. So like if it's a year, it's just year, year, Y, Y, Y. If it's month, it's Y dash, month. So 003 or something.
So it turns the current time into a format that is period dependent. That makes sense for that period. Okay.
Yeah. So month is, we've talked about month. Week is going to be the year dash and the number of the week it is, week number. For day, it's month, day, year, including zeros. For month and day. Hour is going to be
year, month, day, hour.
Day dash hour. So that's so it keeps track of that, and we know when the current one started. So what happens is at the beginning of each eval, it checks to see if the current values have changed from the previous value. Then it updates the previous value, and it just sets a flag that's going to be around for that one eval cycle. Is new year, is new month, is new day. And so I put those separate in a system properties to keep, so that you could, there's no collisions on those. But then you could, very easily check to say, if it's a new year and the year is 2023, then you've earned the Welcome 2023 badge, right?
Mm-hmm. So how does it handle session and game, since those are different, since those don't have a nice fixed date format to them?
So those have counters. So it just counts. So
okay.
At lifetime, first session, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, same thing with game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So when you say start session, it increments a built-in session counter. And when you say start game, it increments a built-in game counter.
And there's system properties for lifetime games and lifetime sessions that you could use for something.
Cool. Now, the rules engine, you've described all the simple fields. I assume there is some way to define evaluating a property more complexly. Let's put it that way.
So what if you look at a rule, then there's a condition, and conditions are based on properties. It's using the Jexl, Jexl engine behind the scenes, which mimics very much like how you do a condition in JavaScript.
Okay.
It doesn't do triple equals, it does double equals, but there's different types of operators and things. And so like if you had something that was your game counter and you had a property that was game count and you incremented the game count, then you could have a condition that says game count equals 3. And so when game count equals 3, then you will earn this badge. Okay.
Or, can you do comparisons of one property against another? So, you could say when the number of acorns saved is greater than the number of acorns eaten, you've achieved the winter storage badge.
Yeah. So what happens with Jexl behind the scenes, there's a string, which is the condition that gets evaluated. And there is an object that gets passed, which is the context. And so the object that gets passed is all of your property values and a system dot all of your system properties. And so, anything that's available in that grab bag of things, then you can do, and or.
And we've talked about evaluation engines like this before, when we were talking about content management system stuff.
Yeah.
So same broad concept.
Exactly. If the property doesn't exist, then Jexl automatically actually just returns false for that. So now you're doing false or false in something. And so,
okay.
you could have a rule, but have not set the property yet, and it will turn out to be false.
And I guess the condition will always evaluate to a Boolean of some sort. So you're
Yeah,
comparing.
and that's the rule. Yeah, that you always want the rule to evaluate to be a bool, because that's what
Okay.
it's going to check on, is just, if this is true or false.
Okay. Well, that seems pretty straightforward. I, in some ways, it's interesting. In some ways, badges seem really simple, but there's a lot to them. There's the rule management, there's the storage of them, the retrieval of them, the fact that when you do change one of these properties, that could impact a whole host of, cascading things. So here's a question, I guess. Are badges properties themselves?
No.
Okay.
So a badge to the system, really, because you define in the rule that this and there's more properties when you define a rule. So the idea is like a unique identifier for this badge ever. If you've got, I guess you could conceivably earn the same badge different ways. Maybe you could then have two different rules that have the same ID but different conditions. That seems kind of weird.
What I'm more thinking of is something like, the golden acorn badge is awarded when you have the silver acorn badge, and you have eaten 10 acorns.
Yeah, no,
Totally
that would work. Yeah, that's totally.
And the silver acorn badge is actually unrelated to eating acorns. So you can't just say, it would be easy. The silver acorn badge is if you ate 5 acorns, and the golden one is if you eat 10. The progression is obvious. But if they're a little bit unrelated, that I could, if the silver acorn one was for planting 10 acorns, I could eat 10 acorns before I've planted 10. I have no idea why I'm talking about acorns tonight, by the way.
I don't know either, but that's interesting. Maybe you should check that out.
Some people do say I'm a little bit nuts, but I don't think this is the reason.
So that's interesting. That's not necessarily something that's raised as first class, because what you'd end up having to do right now is that you could check to see if you've earned a certain badge and then add a property for that badge. But I don't think it's too much out of scope, because I already have a list of badges, and with Jexel you could add functions that would expand the scope of things that are valid in your condition. I could very easily add a has earned badge, and it would be a string that would be the badge ID, and then you could check to see if you've earned that badge. So yeah, that would be actually pretty easy to surface that as a first class. That's a really good idea.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks. It's been fun. I've got, in some ways, I started with the basic concept that I had done before, but there's some certain things that kind of bothered me about it. I didn't have this concept of earning something only from a specific time period. And so I handled that a different way. And then when time came into it, it was kind of a mess. And then with conditionals, I didn't have anything like Jexel before. So I kind of had my own syntax where you would have to create your own, and that was, I had come across these types of evaluation libraries since then. And I thought, oh, this would be a perfect chance to check that out. Last concept I don't think we talked about yet was bookmarks.
Okay.
So a bookmark is just a point in time. So it's a named point in time. So like if one of these periods doesn't work for you, as far as tell me all the badges that I've earned since a specific point in time, I could just generate a UTC, what is it, the ISO 8601 format string.
The right way to store time. Yes.
Yeah, I could create one of those myself, and I can say, give me all the badges earned since, and pass in that string. That works, but bookmarks is just kind of a shortcut.
Okay.
It's a way that I can say, set bookmark and I can give it a name, like begin
Round
tutorial
3.
or something like that, or round, yeah, something. So, and so you might want to do that if you wanted to span something that wasn't a full game and wasn't an individual action, or you might want to do it in a session if it spanned multiple games. And so there, you might want to have a custom one. So all that happens when you set a bookmark is you give it a name, A, and behind the scenes, it generates one of these 8601 time strings, stores it in the list of bookmarks with that timestamp. And so later when you say, give me everything that I've earned since this bookmark A, then it just uses that time as the point in time where it checks. And then whenever you started a new session, I've purposely made bookmarks not carry over across sessions. So every time you start a new session, it clears out all the old bookmarks and you start over again.
I had one other question.
Yeah.
And this, I guess, is very related to, I guess, how we think of things in terms of voice, since we do have sessions are pretty clearly defined. Can a game cross over multiple sessions?
No.
Okay. Why not?
I don't know. I guess I didn't think about it in that way. I might have to reconsider that. But
and I think the reason.
Yeah, go ahead. The things that I've experienced when I've been doing these projects is that you could play multiple games during a given session, but there wasn't like I start a game here and then I finish the game over here. It was kind of
right. The reason I ask is because and that was how I was thinking of it as well. But it occurred to me there are some games that are meant to be long-lasting games. Like if you're playing, choose your own adventure type games, which are very popular in the voice world. It's very common that you'll be playing along and then you'll stop and you'll come back another time.
That's true. Interesting. I wonder if there's anything, because it's really just another period of time. I'm wondering if there's.
Well, to me, that's kind of an inversion because it's the game now spans multiple sessions rather than.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's a meta game or a multi-game. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and if you're doing something like a gamification, that's something that's not really a game, then it's probably okay that you never start a game, that you only have something at the session level, right? That's possible.
That's a good point. Okay. Well, well, but here's the other thing though. Since sessions and games are under your control.
Yep.
They don't necessarily have to exactly map to what we talk about in voice as a session.
True. That is true.
And in fact, this could be a case where I can start a game and assign it to a session. And then each time that I return in a new, what voice would call a session, I could assign that to a game. They're two arbitrary names in some ways.
Yeah, in some ways it is. And it's interesting because maybe there's a concept of a named period of time that you control the start and end of. That maybe you don't ever do session or games for what you're doing and you do something else.
This is always the fun part about developing is that as you get it, the more you get into it, the more you're like, and I can do this. And what about this case? And if I do, if I run into that, well, here's how I can handle it, and here's how I can improve the whole thing. And yeah, that's always the fun part about developing.
Yeah, and that's something that where a lot of things I've got based on this. You set a timestamp and then you check to see everything that you've earned since that timestamp. But on this one, I've also added some callbacks. So down in the engine, when you actually earn a badge for the first time or increment the count because you've earned it again, then it calls this callback on badge earned. So you could plug in and have something happen. So for example, you might want to be able to, like for badge A, if I've earned badge A, then I get three credits added to my score. And you don't want to try to have to like go back and reconcile that after the fact. You might want to just say, oh, at this point, I've just barely earned this. And the thing I look to my lookup that says that A equals 3 credits. And so then I, just add 3 credits. And I originally had just so that you could start a game and start a session. But now I've added the concept where you can end a game or end a session. And then I've added callbacks for each one of those.
Ah, okay.
So that you could, you have some piece of code at some point in time where you're like start game, and then it starts the game. But you might have code somewhere over here. It's like every time you start a game, reset this property or add this counter or do this other thing.
Or increment a counter, some other counter that, that knows that we've stored a game, started a game or started a particular type of game or.
Yeah. So like maybe your badges, I've won 3 games in the same session. Right. So then, well, how would you do that? So then you would have a counter that would get set at the beginning of the session and each game. And one of the things that when you say end game, you can say I won, I lost, or I canceled my game. And so then you could check to say, was this a game that you won? Was it a game you lost? Or was it a game you canceled? And so then you could have, there'll be system properties that go along with those. And so then you can say, oh, I've earned a badge. And now not only can you earn a badge when you play a game, you can earn a badge when you've finished a game. And so now there's like this additional point where you can use in your evaluations.
This is all very cool. And we talk about it in terms of games, but I can see other applications for this sort of a library. So very, very nice.
Thanks.
Anything else you want to talk about with it before we wrap up?
No, it's kind of still a work in progress. It's out there on GitHub. Just and we'll send a link to this on the YouTube video. But it's my personal GitHub /badges, and once I get this to a point where it's working, then I'll move over to the Jovo plugin. And there are unit tests, and right now I think I'm right in the 80% code coverage. So
I am so jealous that you are so good with unit tests. I am very jealous of you.
I'm not always. Sometimes I am though.
You are much better than I am.
So, but no, this has been fun to talk with you, Ellen, about, and I got some new ideas to think about. I might reconsider how I might invert game and session, or have something else that would be not necessarily a game or session that you could define. I'm not sure. I really like the idea of the function to be able to check in your condition if you've already earned a badge, and then have that be a condition into if you earn another badge based on a previous badge you've earned. So those are great ideas. And if other people have some ideas on how to improve it, or if they want to join the open source project and improve it, then happy to have you. Or if you've got questions, just talk to us on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever, right?
Yep. And who knows, we could discuss this again another time on Two Voice Devs.
Two Voice Devs. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, Mark. Have a great week.
You too.